Well, still not certain what they'll be doing in the next 7 days for my video that they still have yet to release, even though the strike expired days ago. But I am prepared to have to place a thumbnail, and that means like pulling through my files and re-uploading it, and so be it. Yet, and on that same note, as someone who's about to start Rayquaza Rising, I'm still drafting full reviews of each arc as they become dubbed. I still maintain that as a whole, the Terrasol debut storyline, and despite my conflict towards which will be another video, is legitimately the best arc I've seen in Horizons so far, and also, who, in all honesty, the adaptation of the game should have been making from the beginning. That being said, it is not without its flaws, and that is a double-edged sword. I mean, we're trying to target older sections of fanbase, because there's also a section of them that's not as willing to overlook the issues with the show. I mean, case in point, how they handled their mention of Grusha, and while taking creative license with characters nothing new, in the past I typically understood why they did it, and even as someone who has gone out of the way to not compare Horizons to previous anime whenever I can, in this specific instance I will make an exception, because all the comparisons other people make, and in particular to the XYZ seasons, and this is one specific instance where I can say that that previous adaptations did it better in how they handled an ice type trainer, with how to correctly adapt them, with using XYZ's example, who is another one of my favorite characters from that anime, Wulfric. So here is how to correctly adapt an ice type gym leader, with a video on why Pokémon XYZ's Wulfric works, where, for me at least, Horizons Grusha doesn't. So let's get started. While the basic archetype is still there from each respective game's portrayal, with Wulfric being the leader of the Snow Belgium and Carlos, and with Grusha being leader of Glacideo Gym and Paldea, yeah, the deviations there are quite different, and where Wulfric definitely excels here is how, even with his age, he still is still not above of helping guide trainers through the challenges, as well, not feeling like he's trying to bury them. Um, and that's and while the whole getting lost in thought may be unique to who the anime, it's a pragmatic change I will accept here, which is definitely what can hope for me. It's definitely trickier than to adapt a video game to other mediums and other source material, but it's not impossible. I mean, with it, again, I just came off watching one where you had they still included Maria's loss and how it affected Shadow in Sonic 3, but they didn't do it the exact same way as it happened in Sonic Adventure 2 and other games where that event is shown. Or say how all the discourse over Chris Pratt's voiceover in the Super Mario reboots. I still maintain that it still leaned in like the Brooklyn aspects of the character, And incidentally, it reminded me a lot in the process like Captain Loabano's variant from back in the day. Hey. However, in Grusha's case, is I know that HC wanted to lean more into characterization, but uh, I still fundamentally do not understand why they felt the need to make him so dismissive of those who's beneath him, whether it's in battle or for something doing something as trivial as the total splitting. And so I also do not buy the comparison to Paul either, since even though oh his arrogance and borderline, I mean, he almost was this close to being an already antagonist, as not just a rival, but even he would recognize there's a lot of people he fought against were the opponents, which I'll be getting to again in the future. And I also will touch on this more in a bit, but this whole obsession with results, I can also verify, is wholly unique to Horizons. I mean, I maintain I'm okay with adding to a character that makes that character better, but not if it makes the character come off as worse. I mean, this whole where the heart is as cold as the Pokemon type you specialize in, and might work for someone like Price, but I sincerely do not think it works for Grusha at all. Mm. This also extends to their respective approaches to how they handle their challenger coming up short, or to mean, whereas as Wulfric legitimately tried to give those who fight him a level playing field, and for some reason they came up with even after Grusha got hurt in his snowboarding accidents, and some misguided obsession with results, almost which was completely unnecessary, and honestly, he he messes with the character significantly. I mean, given how the other Paldea gym leaders were rendered relatively fine and somewhat close to their game characterization, albeit they get more and more details of Iono, a Moonlight as an influencer, and also on top of the duties in the Elite Four and as gym leader, that Larry, another one of my favorite characters also has a salaryman and runs a restaurant as a day job. I mean, that's how I can afford to pay for her loans as well as a character in the show after the challenge. Well, I would assume he's made investments. For example, he likely bought stock like an Amaze company just before society collapsed. So there's that. And but in Grusha's case, is if I absolutely had to change something about his character, or my thoughts would not be trying to turn him into a PG-rated version of J.K. Simmons' character in Whiplash. And I would actually keep the whole characterization they had in the games, which I still submit would have worked absolutely fine for the storyline. Given how I have logged well over 350 hours combined into Scarlet and Violet, almost 360, I I can definitely say that he was a man of few words, and backhand remarks to who who his those who face him was not among them. I mean, I will definitely. I actually rewrote close to all of his lines in my head watching this be more game accurate. It's though like a lot of my headcanons for this anime, that hasn't really worked out as well as I hoped. This is a big sticking point, and arguably the most important one I want to get across here. I mean, while there are situations in the game's other adaptations where the gym leaders is often act antagonistic towards the player here, the idea to try and shake things up by making Grusha more antagonistic than in Source Material sincerely did not work, or on a personal level at all, and not the only one. I mean, just fielding reactions, as I sometimes do whenever I'm researching topics, next that I did notice some of the disappointment over Liko taking a big L. Don't know how that felt. Oh, it. I mean, just as many, if not more, people I found were not pleased with how they handled old Grusha, and as stated, given how he's one of my favorites in the games, and he was among the first characters they revealed for Generation 9, I guess I feel this particularly hardly, and I definitely can argue that was a mistake, and in general, the whole idea, to me at least, of viewing empathy as a liability and viewing just callousness an asset is not sustainable, and there's only one ending for people who continually hold that mindset, and it's never good. And by contrast, even after the first attempt at Snow Gym Battle didn't pan out, Wulfric did encourage his opponent to take a look and contemplate what went wrong, which he did. It actually venturing into the Snowbell Forest to save some Spupa who he had never met, but was willing to bond with over for anything, and as a result, the next attempt at the gym battle is successful. Well, I mean, of course, there's the fact that Grusha just started acting closer to his game counterparts, or after the incident at the Ranha Academy, he realizing what Leiko's truly capable of, but it's something I still have mixed feelings towards. On one hand, and some people say it's like too little too late, but on another, I look at something like a saving throw, which is a literary device that's often used whenever audiences don't respond well to a story or a character aspect, and they have to salvage it, and ends up being better received. But it also begs a question to me: if you knew your audience would not respond, or solid talk at least would not respond to all these changes, why make them? That's been a recurring question I've asked myself with other Horizons. I mean, it's also why I'm gonna be shifting. I tend to shift focus towards the games, and likely will be doing so further after I finish looking at Ultimate Journeys and Master Journeys in the future. Because I'm gonna have to totally revamp my approach, because of how different HZ is. But I will say that if the new anime has not sold you by now, then I think it's fairly unlikely it ever will. Since I'm not saying they had to basically do something like HBO's The Penguin or Andor with it, but I still am at a crossroads that I'll be explaining further when I talk more about the broader, or my broader thoughts on Horizons, as with my thoughts on Terrasoul debut in early 2025. I mean, it is particularly telling, that much like the fact they use the storyline as something like a soft reset for Horizons, and that I don't know if there's going to be like another hard reset of the concept after it ends, and we shall see. Especially as more and more evidence keeps piling up that they're moving to wrap up the of this arc and conclude this little experiment. Still, I think maybe the issues surrounding Grusha's initial changes and the fact that they actually accounted for this and actually he want it back. I seem to suggest this as being because I've never personally engaged with anyone working on the show. I've tried to do my best as to not do so unless they personally ask first, like say if they've got an AMA on one of their social feeds. It's but it still begs the question, I mean, if you make the right ones first, you will not have to undo them later. I mean, since to me, this also goes back to who again the other examples I point out. I mean, on top of the initial kerfuffle of Sonic's design in live action, which was reworked to be more game accurate, it thankfully resulting in a much more successful movie, which is now a whole franchise. Nice. Even though there are some elements that are added, that Tails was initially more reclusive, of, before he met Sonic, but also Knuckles was actually being connected to the origin story of this variant of character. Those are changes that make sense and were built upon in subsequent films as well as the Knuckles event series, which I'll be looking at again 2025. I want to do it this year, but things could get in the way. Which to me makes more sense than trying to reshoot a very hard R Borderlands adaptation to PG-13 in an attempt to acquire an audience who would typically not be interested in the material, which wouldn't about as well as one would expect. Believe me, we'll talk another time. Since, I mean, Wulfric definitely he had the right changes made, especially since not only he did it make the badge being won much more satisfying, but he also came back for the Team for the Crisis storyline. And since maybe if someone like Yajima, or maybe even Hidenori Kusaka was running the show, who understands both serialized storytelling and Pokemon, maybe I might be feeling HZ's vibe more than as much as what I am, as much as others. As it stands, and people already debating what kind of legacy that the show will leave behind, and my understanding so far is like the whole game changing and shake up hope that the anime has actually he been me to make is not an impression that has fully lasted. I mean, since and to be honest, I had my concerns fairly early on, but that now will not be the time to address them. That comes later. Again, sorry for the delay in this video. It's coming out about a day after I would like. To me, I'm also trying to stave off potential illness, which would be really awful right before Christmas. I mean, and that's on top of me having the just about reached a decision about the video I want to make and have ready in advance for the big day. I also don't want to see which one it is though. Oh, and one last models request I'd like to make. If you who are not a fan of how they used to kill Grusha, by all means, just leave the actor be. He did a good enough job, all things considered, and I don't think it's his fault that maybe the scripts weren't really the best suited to this character. That'll be all for now, and I will see you all again soon with more videos, including my final gaming vlog of this year, which I definitely want to have out tomorrow for Festivus at the earliest. So, take care, everyone.